Hey everyone, Mark Campbell here. Ken Tritle suggested that I speak to you all about our latest oratorio together, All Shall Rise, which I created with, of course, Paul Moravec. The libretto of the story is about voters' rights, as you probably have gleaned by now. And like our other oratorios, Sanctuary Road and Nation of Others, we use a historical event and then mix it with personal stories. Some, in the case of Sanctuary Road, were already written in the works of William Still. Others are made up like in A Nation of Others. And the stories in this I made up based on research that I did before creating it. These fictional stories are, of course, affected by the writings and the speeches and the activism of such writers and speechifiers as Benjamin Franklin, John Quincy Adams, Thomas Paine, Frederick Douglass, and Mathilde Francisca Anneke. I like Anneke's name. It's so close to anarchy. Anyway, so what happens is that we hear these speeches, which are usually sung by the chorus, and then the soloists get personal accounts of how these speeches affected them. So, for example, we start with story about states' rights, something that we're still arguing today. And then we switch to a soloist, a white man in Florida in 2019 who can't vote. He's a father, devoted father, but he can't vote because he has a felony on his record. And then we have speeches by Frederick Douglass that affect two other stories of people. One who is a bartender in Lubbock, Texas, serving three white men, a black bartender, while images of Obama's victory flash behind him. And another story of a woman in the 60s in Alabama trying to get to her polling place, and she meets a white man with a gun, but she continues on. Now you'll notice that some of these words that are in the speeches find their way into these personal accounts. For example, the words of Douglass, give him a chance, are repeated in the bartender's solo. And then the last story is of a woman whose husband did not want her to vote. I couldn't believe that, but then I saw that in the last election there were husbands who were preventing their wives from voting. So this story is absolutely modern, even though it occurs in the 70s, originally in the 50s, and then moves on into the 70s. And so with this woman from Connecticut, the words "honor us as your equals" are written on the protest sign that she's bringing with her for an ERA rally in D.C. That's how this sort of oratorio works. And there are a few things that you might have noted. One is that women do not get to sing until I think about a third of the way into the oratorio. This is, of course, my way of dramatizing what happens when you silence the voice of an entire group, more than half of our population. Another thing that you may have noticed is that there are no speeches by Martin Luther King in the oratorio. The reason for this is because first of all, I didn't want Oratorio Society of New York to have to pay for the rights and all the complicated paperwork that accompanies that, but also because I do feel like Martin Luther King has almost become a cliche, as brilliant as his writing and oration was. It's almost become too much of a go-to. And I also wanted to show that the idea of voting rights for black people wasn't born in the 60s. This went back to Frederick Douglass. And finally, Frederick Douglass's words are so musical and so beautiful to set. It was pretty much just choosing what beautiful phrases I could put, into his speeches, keep in his speeches. And then Elizabeth Cady Stanton's speeches, I decided not to go there with the suffragist movement because there was a lot of early racism connected with that movement. So I chose Anneke because we're less familiar with her. I also love the phrase Holy Palladium Batman, as far as it just sounded so good. Finally, I just wanted to make one comment that you probably have already noticed, but there is a reprise of several phrases. I will be heard, I will be counted, I will not be denied. That starts with one voice, and it expands into a chorus by the end of the oratorio. And at that point, I change it from first person singular to first person plural. And the reason for that is that, activism is a verb, it's not a noun, and it has to keep going, we have to keep fighting. And just finally, I want to express my gratitude to you and Kent and everyone in this chorus. I think what we're doing is absolutely historical. I really do believe that we are revitalizing this art form. So thank you. And email me if you have questions, as always. Okay, enjoy rehearsals. Bye.